Okay.
Oh,
Ready?
she couldn't make it.
Good evening
Oh.
and welcome to the RSU 14 special meeting this evening. We are at Jordan Small Middle School Library and it is March 26th at approximately 5:32 p.m. May we have a roll call?
Sure can. Kate Brooks.
Here.
Eric Colby.
Here.
Jennifer Fleck. Diana Foisel.
Here.
Marge Gaboni.
Here.
Pete Hensler.
Here.
Don Perkins. Jerry Keane Dwyer.
Here.
Katrina Sangster.
Here.
Kate Neal.
Can you join me in the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we're going to begin our meeting this evening with an executive session, so we have a motion to go into executive session.
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible readmission of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056B.
Second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And we will return at approximately 6:15 with our special meeting. Good evening and welcome back. This is the RSU 14 Board of Directors special meeting, March 26, 2014. Time is 5:55. We are at Jordan Small Middle School Library. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the student under consideration be readmitted to school and that the superintendent provide the parents with a written summary of the board's findings.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous, right? Thank you. And can we just continue on now even though we're ahead of schedule?
Yep, that's fine.
I don't think so. I think Charlie's got it. Sandy, are you needed for
Yeah.
for the readmission? No?
I'm all set.
You're all set.
Yep.
Just wanted to check. Okay, we're going to move on then. We have a sabbatical leave request, and we've had quite a bit of information. I'm assuming this is Lindsey.
Yes.
Hi, welcome,
Thanks.
Lindsey Hansen. You are a science teacher in the high school.
I am.
In the high school. And you submitted an application which we've all seen for sabbatical next year. I do think that there have been some questions. So do you have a presentation that you wanted to, or did you want to say something? and let people-
It's kind of up to you. I have a few things that I could say, but
Sure.
if you guys just want to launch into questions. that's
No,
fine.
I think why don't you go ahead and share whatever you want to share, and then we'll ask, and then we'll launch that question.
Okay. I do have something, just a little visual for you guys to look at. It might help to answer some questions, so. Colorful teacher handouts, you know.
Yes, we
Hand
like that,
possess.
we like that. Thank you so much.
I know.
Yeah.
Splurging, right?
I know, I love it.
Thank you.
Kate, this is right up your alley.
It really is.
Oh, you have both Kates down there.
That's right. So thanks for having me. Again, I'm Lindsey Hansen, and I just wanted to say a few things about myself and what I might be doing next year with your support, hopefully, and then be able to answer any questions that you guys have. So this is my 7th year at Wyndham High School. I teach earth science and environmental science. Kate was a student of mine, actually. And I kind of come from a unique background. I started as a science student, and I graduated with a degree in marine biology. After college, I worked in the biotech industry for a little over a year and realized kind of something was missing. I loved the science, and I loved being able to continue to learn more, and I really found my niche kind of going into education, and I've loved it ever since. And so my journey from teaching my first couple of years launched me into getting my master's in education, specializing more in literacy and science. So I was the oddball student science teacher in a literacy classroom, which was refreshing to most and exciting for me. And then I've been really involved with kind of place-based education through USM since I finished my degree. And so next year, I'm hoping to continue on my path of pushing myself and learning a little bit more. And so I have an opportunity to be a STEM education specialist for an organization called Arcadia Power. And they are a private company that is starting in Washington, D.C., or has started in Washington, D.C. They have been around for a little over a year, and they're actually a spin-off of a larger company that was started in California. So the founder, Kieran, I won't attempt to pronounce his last name, I haven't had to do that yet, was with that company, and he's kind of a spin-off. And their company is a clean energy utility. So they're similar to Electricity Maine, if you guys have seen those commercials where they give the consumer the choice of clean energy as electricity. So they do a similar thing on the national scale, though. So instead of just being in one state, they're nationally supported. So my job for them next year would be creating some educational materials. The key mission in their company is really informed consumers. So where's energy come from? What does it mean to put in wind power? And how does that get to the grid and then back to consumers to use that? So they're looking for somebody, kind of a feather in their cap, to have an educator on their team. And they're also looking for materials to present to the public and to get into public schools to inform students and teachers, and hopefully that trickles out to the parents of those kids, and they select to buy power from a clean energy source. So that's kind of their mission, and the fellowship being an equal balance. So me being able to give my expertise to them as a classroom teacher, like what is realistic and what will work, and me gaining experience of being in a pretty big area of national talk with education and connecting the next gen standards to the materials that they have. So everyone's kind of in that same game of connecting things to new standards that were just adopted for the state of Maine last year. So that's kind of a concern of theirs and something that I'm going to be working with them. And I see that as a great opportunity to get in the middle of how we connect proficiency-based learning, the new standards that we have in science, with real STEM opportunities. So trickled throughout the next generation standards are opportunities for kids to get into STEM. So science, technology, engineering, and math. And this is a prime example of opportunities that kids could have and could look at in that industry. So I think it would be a benefit to myself and the district to get somebody who dives in and looks at those standards and picks them apart a bit and figures out how it's going to work in a public school setting. So currently at the high school, we're getting together and working with the middle school to look at the standards and to take what we have known in the past and what's coming down the line in the future with these standards and trying to align the stuff that we have. And we're hoping that, I think the freshmen for next year are graduating with a proficiency-based diploma. And so we definitely have a large task at hand. So limited opportunities to kind of mess up that process. And so I really think that this will be a great experience for me to sit down, iron out some of those wrinkles, and then be able to come back and share that work with the district and with my department, high school and middle school, to have a model for what that looks like when we need to sit down and make sure that our standards are aligning with the requirements from the state, and also to make sure that we give kids that opportunity to have the same experience. The kids that walk across that stage in June have had the same science experience, have had opportunity to that experience. So that's, I think, kind of what I will be doing and then what the value is to the district. And so I see this really as both study and a research opportunity. Like I said, I finished up my master's, and that was kind of my traditional study. And I think this gives me an opportunity to move that further to application of knowledge and synthesizing and creating that model. So it's a continued process of learning for me, which I'm really personally and professionally excited about. And then also the research aspect, that I will be in touch with many people that are in the middle of these standards and looking at that stuff. They already have connections with the Department of Energy and the EPA, And so those, to me, seem like great avenues to branch out and check out what's going on with the education sector of those different departments. So that's kind of my little spiel. So I didn't know if you had any questions. Hopefully I addressed some of them in some things I said, but.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Do you and board members have questions? Go for it.
Tell me what research you're going to be doing with Arcadia Power.
So as far as the next generation science standards, what they're looking for is those educational resources and connecting those to kind of the three facets of the standards. So we have the cross-cutting concepts in science, then we have the content, and we have the science and engineering practices. And so for them, they want to create these materials that teachers can actually use. And they know that our goal is making sure that we are connecting to those standards. So kind of the research part I see is less about what they're getting and more about what I'm doing to bring back. Like, so this will be action research for me because I'm going to be learning about the process and how to do that. They're more interested in kind of the end result and hoping that teachers will buy into that if it is linked to the standards. So the research component is really more for me, that I will be able to work through this process and say, okay, well, this model didn't really work, and this one does. So when we sit down to talk about something beyond just energy in the classroom, and maybe something more pertinent to what's going on in Maine, that I have that kind of system in place. So that's kind of what I mean by action research, from my standpoint anyway.
So they're getting a benefit from it.
Yeah. Yep. So they be
So
getting.
are they going to pay you?
I don't get a salary from them. They have mentioned a possible living contribution to like a rental situation, but we haven't ironed all that out yet because it's not official. So they're willing to entertain that kind of small little living expense. So see on the DC rental maybe go.
I have others, but I want to share.
Yep. Diana?
So you're going to be developing materials for them?
Mhm.
Like, are you going to be developing curriculum that then this private company is hoping to sell to school districts?
No, it's not
implement?
proprietary. It's if you could, like if you logged on to NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and you go to their education page, and it says for teachers, and they might have like a thing on weather. And so they're like worksheet type things, but informative web quests and things for students to do that connect to a larger objective. So they're looking for things like that, or kind of talking about the differences between wind power and solar power. So they're kind of informative educational materials, but they're not looking to sell it. In any case, they'll be public, so they'll be posted on their site or given out to teachers in local schools, but they're not selling them because it promotes their business
Sort of like
in the
a
end.
powerhouse.
Yeah.
I'm just having trouble seeing the connection as to the benefit for the district. You know what I mean? I see how you'll greatly benefit them, and that's, you know what I mean, it sounds like an awesome
Right.
opportunity for you, but I'm just having
Yeah, it's
trouble grasping what is the benefit to RSU 14.
The bring back.
Yeah.
Sure, it's to bring back that model. So going through, obviously their objective is to inform their customers of the different selections of energy, so wind power and solar and different clean energy sources. And so the goal of a teacher, obviously, would be, we've taught kids from kindergarten kind of the idea of energy and what that looks like. And as we get into the middle school and high school curriculum, the next gen standards really focus on the STEM aspect, so the problems in science and the solutions in engineering. And so what I would have an opportunity to do would be to take the idea of energy, the concept of energy, and take the other components, the more complex components of the next gen standards. So how do we get kids to analyze a problem and ask questions and develop potential models in engineering on how to solve a problem in energy. And so I would be creating those things for teachers to access that would have their logo on the bottom. So they might get some extra added benefit of that advertisement on the bottom. But for me, that process of going through and saying, okay, this is our energy, our clean energy curriculum unit and how it connects back. And so taking out those components and making sure students have activities and objectives are clear, and they're getting exposure to the science practices, the core ideas, the ideas behind energy and how that's transferred, how a grid works, the electrons involved in that. So all of those aspects together to incorporate them into a unit. And although I will be able to take that very specific unit back to Wyndham High School, like we could do a clean energy unit, the practice of going through that is really the model that I'm hoping to develop. So instead of the STEM aspect of clean energy, we might be able to get further into the STEM of manufacturing certain goods in another area and what that looks like for heavy earth metals. And so taking that idea, the fact that I've been able to tease those things out to figure out how they work real time in a classroom is really the model that comes out of it for us. And they're not as interested in that. They don't want that model because they want the materials, but I will be able to benefit while I'm making the materials for them. And also at the same time, being in that DC area, there are lots of people figuring out how this is actually going to work. So the next gen standards are this big thing that we've heard about, but in practical application, it hasn't gone through a high school student with 4 years of next gen experience yet. And so all science departments in the state are sitting down saying, okay, here's all the stuff we had, here are all the things we're supposed to have, and there's some overlap, but there's a lot of extra stuff. There's literacy components that science teachers haven't thought about before. There are the STEM components that they haven't thought about before. So that really kind of ups the ante for how we create these things. And it's complicated when we have a handful of professional development days and limited opportunities to get together, because that certainly could be work that is done 24/7 for a year to get it all figured out. So I'm excited about this because I feel like it would give me a good time chunk to figure it out, and doing that every day and seeing how it works, and even practicing it out on like school kids in DC might be a something that we're able to do when I'm there. So.
Other questions down there? Because I can't really see. More questions down this end?
Yeah, I guess the issue as I look into this, that I see, I'll just share with you instead of asking the questions, is, he started this company in 2013. He came from efficiency. They don't own anything. They don't produce anything. They simply are buying power and selling it on a grid. So if I'm buying from Electricity Maine and they say it's green, it's the same line that's coming to my house. So really all they're doing is buying and selling. So they're a business. I don't know how, as someone who represents the town, I would be able to say, yeah, we would pay for you to go and work with a company that's for profit.
Yeah, I think with any fellowship opportunity, there's that clearly they're getting something out of it, and that the other aspect of it is that there's another party that's also gaining some knowledge or experience or a benefit from it as well. And they're usually or sometimes not the same thing. So they're getting a teacher with some expertise in the classroom. So if they put something on their website that's actually going to be useful, and a teacher might say, hey, I'll use this because it's going to work. So they understand that. So they're getting me for that aspect. And I'm kind of using the pressure that's put on them to, if they're going to make those things, they need to be aligned by standards. And so they want those things to be good, and that gives me the opportunity to kind of work that angle. They could, kind of care less about what the standards are as long as they're on there and they are linked and they're usable for a teacher, which is clearly what my objective is. So I don't think it's not a huge investment for them necessarily, but I think it's something that is important to them. And for the public relations aspect, like we're working with an educator, I think it's a new or an upcoming and current industry. There are other companies that are trying out similar things like Electricity Maine, and I think anything that they can add to their package, kind of public viewing, adds to that. You can certainly speak with, or the information is on the letter that was in that packet. They might be able to speak more to the kind of the business aspect, but that's kind of what I would.
I've listened to Kieran online. I've listened to his stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I also had looked up the address, which is just an apartment on that street.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have a building there.
Yeah, they don't. No. At the time, they have partners in different cities, so they're doing a lot of telecommunicating.
Right.
In that aspect, yeah.
If I might interject, I think what's different about this I've never, in the time that I've been on the board, seen a sabbatical request that's not with an educational institution.
Yeah.
And I think that's the stumbling block a little bit here, because it's easy for us to say, we value your broadening your knowledge and bringing it back and, you know, all those things. And it's very easy when it's an educational institution that somebody's going to for us to say, yeah, they're, you know, getting a degree from da-da-da-da, or, you know, taking these courses at da-da-da-da. I just think this is a little different.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think we have a model for how we assess the, you know, relevancy when it's not an educational institution that somebody's looking to go to. And Kate, you might be the policy guru and have an answer.
No, it's not. No. But it's not related to policy, but, you know, as I'm listening to all of this, and I see the pros and cons, but I really see more pros in that, well, a lot more pros actually, in that it's almost like an exponential learning opportunity for a teacher, where they are actually going out into the industry and learning firsthand, rather than going into an educational institution. I say they're, you're right there. I see that some of the concerns, and I agree with you, it is an entirely different model. I think it's interesting because we talk a lot about STEM and how important STEM is. And to have someone who's in DC who will be exposed to where they make policy, if you want to talk about policy and STEM and creating curricula and everything else, I mean, she's going to be in the hotbed. And I think the concern is, you know, there is a portion of benefit that seems a little skewed because it is a company relationship. But I'm thinking that the positive for us, as far as bringing back materials that will assist in developing this STEM, which is, like she said, they've got the old, they got the new, they got to make it work. She's got a whole year to kind of think it through, and we all know, as you well pointed out, the time that the teachers have on staff to really sit down and digest it is not infinite. It's very limited. So I think, you know, she's going to come back. Part of the requirement is she has to be with the district for 2 years. It's not like she's going to take this and run, right, you know, and make $1 million, as if that could happen, right? I think sometimes as a board we have to look outside the box too. And I think this is one of those times where I'm willing to look outside the box and say she's not going to a USM, she's not going to wherever, she's going to a business. And whether, you know, we kind of understand it completely or not, I'm willing to vote for the sabbatical for the experience of finding out how it works.
I could just add one thing that I forgot to mention. Part of the process in development of this proposal, she met with a committee, and Christine Hessler was part of that committee to hear the proposal, just to make sure that that committee felt comfortable enough to carry on to get it to your level. And I think it was, the beauty of this is if every teacher had an opportunity to have the time to do the standards work and the curriculum work outside of the classroom, I think they would just be so ecstatic to have that time. And I think this is an example where this teacher could definitely do that work and bring it back to the district. But I'm wondering, Madam Chair, if Christine might be able to make some connections as well, given her role in the district.
For me, when I met with Lindsey and part of the committee, I think it's really important that what we're asking kids to do now is to apply it to real life. Lindsey has an experience where she's going to apply what we're teaching in the classroom to real life and able to help businesses connect with education. We keep hearing it over and over again. Business keeps saying, we need graduates to come out with all of these skills, okay? But how do we get there? How do we know what skills they are unless we're really entrenched in it? And how do we know as educators what we really have to provide for our students that's outside of the black and white on a piece of paper? So when I met with Lindsey, I was impressed that, yes, she will be gone a year, and we had the discussion of, you are coming back, and can you email me and start, because we're starting this work, and it's huge. The Next Gen Science Standards are an absolute monster. They're very thorough, but all the application is for after school and applying our learning. This is a perfect opportunity of sending our student out into the real world to find out what works, to come back, and not only does the business help in this end, but also as educators, we'll know firsthand exactly what we need to be doing and what experiences we need to provide for our students at Wyndham High School to get them ready to be in some of these fields. So that's my piece on it, as we're going through every content area right now, aligning our curriculum K through 12.
So do you anticipate, actually, because it's been floated around here right now, but I'm not sure that this is what I'm hearing this correctly, that you would actually have curriculum that you would bring back to Wyndham High School, or just the process of going through that?
A little bit of both. So I would have their clean energy, the things I develop for them
Right.
are just as much mine as they are the public's after that. So
Right.
it could be something that I use.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool aspect of that is I was speaking with a student the other day. He's telling me about how he was snowmobiling up in Eustis, and he went up to the Kibbe wind farms, and the guys let him in the bottom of the wind farm. And this kid is not normally the most engaged kid ever, but at that moment I was like, this kid could be part of that process. Like, he loves Eustis Ridge. He's up there all the time. He thought it was like a really cool thing that he got to do, and he started talking about the science that the guy taught him. And so that unit does actually really apply to Maine, especially with the offshore wind and all the new things where Maine is really on the forefront of that. And also the fact that 1 in 7 are going to be STEM jobs coming out of Maine in the next couple of years. So they were talking. So having this conversation with the kid allows me to say, hey, this unit is going to be very applicable on its own, in addition to the model for taking these standards and really unpacking them and laying them all out. And I have, over the last 2 years, gone with Christine to kind of every conference I can get my hands on looking at these standards, because it is exciting work, but it's also really hard. It's one of those, it's a very complex thing. You have papers everywhere. Just to get the idea of what the framework looks like before you dive into it was like a 3-day process to figure it out. And so it's exciting work, and I've kind of done the USM thing, and I've learned about all these things, and I'm eager to kind of start and get going on it. And not everybody is excited about curriculum and sitting down and creating new curriculum. So some teachers in the high school, it's a very daunting thing, and it's the second or third or fourth time around. And for me, it's the first time around, so call me naive, but I'm really excited about
That's why
it.
you have so much energy.
I guess so. So I think it is an outside of the box experience, but I think kind of pushing that envelope is when you get those really good rewards out of it. And I also think in a lot of ways it offers so much more than going to get a master's degree. I mean, I have that experience and it motivated me, and you learn the foundations of things, but there's a lot of, okay, well, let's hurry up and go get it, and not as much time for that. So I'm excited. I feel like this will kind of round out my experience of trying to learn new things and apply them, so I can come back and be a good science teacher in my classroom and a good member of our science department. I would love to share with my department members how to do this. So although it's kind of outside the box, I think it offers some rewards that are something maybe different than you've seen before even.
Jerry.
And this is a full-time experience, or just the school year? Or
It is the school year, yeah. So knowing that I have that teacher schedule already, it would be a September to June
Okay.
placement, yeah.
And do you know where you'll be doing it? Is
Somebody's basement?
And is there really a place that you will go to, an office, or?
Yeah,
is
it will be in DC, and they're currently seeking out an opportunity for an office
Okay.
space. They don't have it yet, but they're working on that.
So that's the part that I'm missing right now, is I don't know a lot about this company. You know, I know that you said it was a spin-off from another company, and it's less than a year old, and they don't have a physical office or whatever. So the part that I'm missing right now is, like, what are you gonna have access to? What are they gonna be able to provide for you? I mean, I can't find anybody on LinkedIn that says that they work for this company, so I mean, are you having access to engineers, I mean, like scientists? Or
Yep.
is this information that you could just get researching yourself without the help of the company? Like, what's the company giving to you that you're gonna be able to bring back to the RSU?
The company founder is an engineer himself, and a lot of these companies, the clean energy companies, do kind of start out that way. And I think it's something hard to get used to because we're used to kind of physical spots and businesses. But this spinoff was in San Diego, but they have their CFO lives in Boston, and so that part is kind of tricky to understand. And as I was speaking with them, I kind of realized that they almost give me this, well, yeah, that's just how it works. So I mean, I'm with you on that, being a little bit confused about that. But they already have connections with different organizations where I will be able to jump in and as their educator and have those communications with the EPA and the Department of Energy. So they have those kind of larger connections because they're on the front end of clean energy, and they're an organization that isn't sponsored but it's supported by those companies. So they put lists of people, of companies that are in that same realm out. So I will have all the connections to those areas, and that's where I see the opportunity for getting involved with their educators, because the Department of Energy's education section is huge. And so I see that as an opportunity to network and to be in that community. And I think they are willing to give me kind of free rein on that with the education stuff, because they're like, well, this is new to us, and we want you to go for it. So I think that I will have the ability to kind of reach out and do things at will where I see things connecting. I don't know if that answers.
I do. This person or business, would you be there under a contract? I mean, what is your safety net in this? This is, to me, is like open-ended. It's like, come here and it could just shut down, and you'd be, after a month, and you would be in Washington, I guess.
I will have like a contract, a fellowship contract, so similar to kind of enrolling in a degree program, I guess, where you say you're committing to that. It would be no different in my mind that's, if I was taking a sabbatical and going to USM, I was just saying I was going to be taking some classes. And in this case, I have that it's going to be a fellowship contract. It goes from September to June. We're going to try to work in the living stipend thing. But I don't really know how to answer that question, because I feel like it was a job that was put out there and I applied for it, and their CFO and their COO have both been behind that, so they would breach their contract in that case, but I'm not sure why it would be broken over any other contract.
Well, usually when you go to school, I mean, if something happens there, then it's the student. It's not necessarily the school. If you sign up to go to school and you just leave, the school could care less, or you know, if they shut that down. I guess where is your security for you? That's what I was asking. When you go there, I mean, they are giving you a contract that says well, they're not paying you. So whatever the obligation is for them, they will give you something in writing legally,
Right.
for 1 year. That's what I was.
Yes, yeah, I will sign that contract. So from this September to the June date would be that binding contract. Yep. And they have investors, and they have money in there. I mean, they have this business, so they're not a corporate. It's not like they're a small startup where they don't have investors and money and support as a business. So I don't see them going anywhere.
Okay, now the only, this has really nothing to do with you as a person or what you're requesting, is the problem I have is the timing of this. This comes with cost during budget season, during contract time, and that is something else. Part of the budget, I mean, there is staff we're letting go, there are supplies being cut. And I think what you're asking for and you know your desire is wonderful, and you know it could be very beneficial. But for me, the problem is the timing of it.
Yeah, could I speak to that?
You certainly
Okay. I know it wasn't really a question. The budget thing isn't really my my main thing, but I do see as kind of this. If you guys are supporting me in this, although it is a budget item that is maybe a little bit on the larger side, I would say that even being in this district for 7 years, thinking about the professional development and the time that we put into getting outside consultants, and those people are really expensive. And a lot of times they're here for a short amount of time, and they're from a different area that maybe doesn't understand our students as well. And so I really see that as an investment. So I think the figure was 29,000 around was that investment. And I really see that as I will be here for 2 years as an asset, as kind of a private consultant or a consultant that is available to Christine and to the middle school and to the high school on kind of a continual basis with our next gen standards. So although I see that it is a budget item that is maybe a little bit on the larger side, in the long run I think that it really will help in our professional development, and maybe even cut out on some of those resources of having kind of an expert come in and talk to us, because I will have been that expert under kind of the terms of RSU 14. So I see it as coming out on top after a few years, if you look at it from that perspective.
Kate Nealand, I want to hear your opinion. Nothing like putting you on the spot.
Exactly.
I know.
It doesn't have to be an opinion. What do you think?
I think it would be a great opportunity. I mean, just hearing all the things that are going to happen. DC is an amazing place to go for a bunch of opportunities, and so sending Ms. Hansen there would allow us to get more resources when the next year comes. So that way, she's experienced all these different programs in some way. She's learned how to create the curriculum, she's made the models, she's worked with them, she's maybe even applied them in a school setting to see if they work, and that could help when she brings it back to our school to help us, because I've had her for two years. And so I've seen the growth, and I'm in her environmental science class this year, and so an cost energy thing would have been a cool unit to learn about. So I think it would be a good opportunity for the school as a whole to learn about how we can become more energy efficient.
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
It's
But
okay.
you're here and you are living it, so
Yeah.
we need to know these things, right? Any other questions? Kate
Yeah.
Bricks?
Just a couple comments. As I listen to us, and I'm right there with everybody when I first heard, well, it's just an address and where are you going to be and everything else. And yet, we allow our students to go to virtual high schools, and that is you can do that anywhere. So the fact that maybe I initially got wound up about where she's going to be, I think is a moot point at this point. It's everything's virtual now. She can connect to anybody, really, via Skype or listening in on a conference. So that particular piece now is not of any concern to me whatsoever. And I have to say, when I looked at this information that we got, that is really not relevant in some respect to the sabbatical, but the average budget from 2009 to 15 increased an average of 1%. And included in that are perhaps opportunities missed for our teachers. Times are very, very tough, and teachers are the bread and butter. And if we want teachers to be able to talk about experiences outside of the classroom, which is what we want them to do, and prepare them for energy opportunities outside of the classroom, I can't think of a better opportunity to have a teacher learn outside of the classroom. So I totally understand the concerns, but I'm 100% on board.
I'm just going to say something. I ditto what Kate is saying, and Kate Nealand too. The mama in me says, oh my God, God, she doesn't even have an office. But I'm gonna move beyond that. And there's nothing more exciting than having a teacher that is passionate and bought into what she's doing and making it relevant. And I think these are the kinds of opportunities that that do allow for that. So I'm in support as well. You have a question?
Yeah.
And Eric, I'm getting to you too.
Money question. How many people are out on sabbatical in a given year? Do we only
No more
have
than
a few
two.
No more
spots?
than two,
No more than
and I don't
two.
think we've ever had a history of 2 out at once.
Yes, we did.
We did?
Yes, we had
Yeah.
it once.
Oh,
But this is the
sorry.
only application we're getting this
Yes,
year.
right.
Oh,
The contract says that we can have we can support 2.
so is that why that's a budgeted item? Because typically each year there is someone?
It's not
It is budgeted this year, and typically we get a feel for who might be interested, and then we make a determination whether we put 1 or 2 in. I think there's 1 in this year. but,
Yeah. We had another request, but that person decided not to.
They weren't ready.
Yeah, they weren't ready, so.
Eric?
Okay, then my concern is the opposite of Kate's, and that is, the concern is, when I read your letter, if I understand it correctly, your husband's going to Washington on a fellowship?
No, he initially applied for
Okay.
an Einstein Fellowship, which is what kind of launched me to kind of look into my own opportunities. And it was a super competitive, and it didn't work out for him, so I had already made these connections and continued on.
I guess that's what it was that you had stated, you went looking for an opportunity, and this one kind of popped up.
I did, yeah, yep.
And a couple of things that when you said it's not a startup, it is. It was this guy is still listed as the business development manager for American Efficiency, which
Right.
was all started 100% from venture capital,
Yep.
which is from one
Right.
investment company
Yep.
of $2.5 million.
Yeah.
So it basically is a website and an address, and I don't see where he's got the science, I can't put it all together. I think your intentions are great, and I think you've got a lot of passion, and I can see where you would want to, you want to inspire kids, I mean, I see that, but as representative people, I haven't put it all together. I would almost need more information myself to be able to say, yeah, that's a go-ahead. I just, after doing some research, I can't put it together. Maybe just because I'm slow, but
Yeah, I mean, any information that you would need beyond that, Kieran, I think, would be able to give you that as far as like where their money comes from and what they've got
Oh,
going
right,
on. Like,
well-
I'm not sure their business.
right. I'm not even sure what work's going to be done. I mean, yes, they're obviously very politically connected. The guys that founded, so I have no doubt about that. One's
Right.
brother's a senator, one who's on a major campaign I mean, they're very connected. So no doubt they have access to EPA and whatever else. But I guess I just don't see it as far as what it's going to value the RSU. And I don't mean that against you, I just don't see it.
Jerry?
I guess maybe I'm having the same sort of struggle of the viability of this company because it's so new, and that perhaps that's what I'm struggling with as well. Not your idea or that you can actually do it. I'm more concerned that we're going to fund something that if it doesn't kind of pan out for you, that's fine for you, but we'll be paying for it. And that's more my concern is I'm not getting the sense of the viability. It's a very new company, and if they could show more, it's not that the idea of what you want to do, and that's what my struggle with. Also, I just need some clarity about the real cost of this, because I'm seeing that Lindsey would be gone for the year. She had half salary, but she continues to get full benefits.
Correct.
We'd have to hire someone full-time with full benefits, so we can't save money on this.
No.
It's going to
No.
cost us.
I
29.
More
sent
than-
out a note to you folks. It looks like about $29,000 would be the high end of the cost of the district.
Depending on what the sub-cost
Right.
was.
But what's a full benefit just for benefits?
It depends, but it's in the range of 18,000 for adult child to 22,000 for a full family. But we know what the contract is, which is calling for 47% of something over a single. So we've calculated this out to be, if you could hire someone in, I'll be more clear about this, if we could hire someone in with a total salary and benefit package of $58,300, the out-of-district expense, if you will, would be $29,929.
And that would be a teacher at what level? And I'm, you know.
Well, our base is in the low, at 58,000, I'm thinking that would come in at 45, so that's probably BA 3, 4, MA 2, 3, roughly, yeah.
It's not an entry level.
No.
No, it would be a one-year contract with that individual, 1 year only.
So it's potentially could be less than 29,000, but probably wouldn't be more.
No, I don't think it would be more. I think it's a pretty safe number to tell you. I think we'll be spending probably that amount of money.
Over and above what's in the budget.
It's budgeted, but
At
over and
the-
above one person, that's correct.
Okay.
Because you're now paying for one person plus this 30,000.
Right. I'm struggling with supporting the idea, but I'm struggling with this very new company that
We don't know anything about.
that we don't know much about, and I'm really kind of struggling with that. Not the idea, and not that I think you're trying to be duplicitous or anything at all, but it's, you know, it's a very
Is
new
there a way
company.
to get
What they
more?
do is, you know, we get letters saying, you know, buy our energy and green, and I agree with all of it, it's wonderful, but it's not like I really get how complete they are besides contacting people to sell their energy, and I'm struggling with that. So, not the idea, but.
Is there any way that we could get more information about this company and its?
I think Eric is researching.
Yeah, I mean, contacting Kieran, so after I received the letter from him, I did say that my school district might want to hear more from you, and so he's fully prepared to kind of talk to you about that, which is maybe more what you're looking for, like the business plan and their business model and what that looks like.
It would help me just to see what they looked for in looking for a fellow. I mean, what was their set of requirements? How did they advertise it? How did you have to apply for it? And if I just could see that would be helpful. How did they go about looking? How many fellows are they looking for? And what's their plan for fellowships? And
You're the only one, right?
I am the only one, yeah, and this is not a situation where they've had like a long history of 20 years of fellows like maybe the NOAA has or the EPA has, you know, so.
Would this be their first experience doing this? then,
I
since
believe
they're
so,
startup?
yes.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
would be new.
Yep, I believe so, because they've been around for, since early in 2013. So this would be their first educational person, because I'm sure they weren't ready for last school year, you know, so.
They're wicked smart guys. I mean, they're way above me. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that we're maybe unfamiliar with kind of their business model and how successful they'll be in the world, I think is to some degree like an aside, because if they're not around in 5 years, do we really care? You know, because my benefit from working with them is in this year and using them for their connection. So although we might kind of tend to be like, oh, well, a business might kind of take advantage of me, you know, I think that they have some interest, they want some things out of me as well, but I also will be able to get, for the district and for myself professionally, get things out of them. So if they end up being this great worldly company, like it doesn't really matter as much to us as long as we're able to kind of benefit from my work with curriculum and the connections and the opportunities that they afford me, kind of regardless if they end up flopping on their face in 3 years, you know. So that's kind of my take on the business model, but I know that Kieran would be fine having those conversations with you. I don't know, I could also ask him some questions that if you guys had some, and I could pass them along to him.
Can I ask a clarifying question? And maybe it was in the materials and I'm just dull, but this company is a spin-off of a successful company.
Yeah, a multi-million
dollar company where, so it's essentially an offshoot of that, right?
No.
No.
It's
Okay.
The American Efficiency started in 2010 with the venture capital. This guy has spun this off. He's following a similar model. They basically buy and sell energy, kind of like Energy Maine. So they really don't own anything or do anything. They just buy and sell it. And then he spun this off into Washington, and there's absolutely no information on him whatsoever anywhere.
So it would make it a lot easier if this was not a broker, if it was like an actual energy
Right.
producer that had people in there that had the scientific skills that you'd be working with every day. But I mean, that's the part that I'm having a hard time understanding is, you know, who's going to be there other than reaching out. I mean, if this was a fellowship with the actual EPA or, you know, or an energy producer, it would be a slam dunk, I think. But
Yeah, so, I mean, as far as their worth and how you're saying, like, if they actually owned something, I do know that in their business plan, their capital comes in the market of people that they have. So per customer, that's how their worth is assessed.
Right.
So,
Right. They get
although
contracts.
they don't own the energy, they own
Contracts.
the contracts that come with the people. And so the people are kind of their investment and their commodity in that instance.
Correct.
So that's what they're worth. In that regard. And there's one other part that I'm forgetting about. So also their advisors that they have that are on their panel are engineers, are the people that they're buying their clean energy credits from, are the wind farm partners that they have, wind farms in Kentucky and West Virginia that they are going to partner with and bring to light in their advertising. So they're partnered with people in all of they're not large enough yet where they have a board of 15 people where one guy is a wind farm engineer, but they have those people in their own entities that they consider on their advisory board. So they're not working for Arcadia Power, but they're invested in that company and have those partnerships. So, and I do know that they had a recent, this sounds a little bit funny, but Abercrombie and Fitch just signed on an 80,000 person contract with their employees with them. So they're gonna, in their employee package, they're going to have Arcadia Power as their sponsor. So they do have these connections, and although we know how kind of connections work with people, that was probably a friend down the road somewhere, because it seems like kind of an odd connection, but that they have these advisors. So although they're not working under a title of Arcadia Power, they're definitely in business with those people. So that's maybe more what Kieran can speak of. Those are kind of the things that I know. Yeah.
For those partners, are they going to be sending you to the partners to go see how these things work, and will you
Before
have
you
that
answer
opportunity?
that, I think that we need more information, just based on what I'm hearing right now. I think we need to hear from the company. Would everybody agree with this?
It feels like we need to tighten up what we want to know.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing is we need to know from Kieran who the people are that you're going to be working with that are going to provide you the expertise for creating this curriculum, I think is what I'm hearing from the group.
I think you want to know, I think there's a part of you that really wants to know the business aspect. You need to have that settled for yourself. I also think you're looking for what is Lindsay's role and who will she be connecting with in order to do this work.
To me, that's more important than the viability of the business.
Yeah,
Although,
me too.
Because she is going to be, in this situation, she is going to be at the table and she'll be accessing their partners, she'll be at the EPA, all of these things that happened.
But we need to understand how is that model, like
Right.
what's the plan for that
Yeah.
model? So
Well,
that-
I do know, I mean, in the letter that he wrote and in the conversations that I had, that the executives and the engineers and the people that they are in partners with are going to be accessible by me. So I think on the backside of this, I had the letter in there, but that they knew that me going in, that I want access to these people because I'm the science teacher. Like I want to know the science. I want to get to the people that are running that wind farm and talk to them about the problems that they had to deal with, because those are the things that we want to bring back and teach our kids and incorporate into our curriculum. So as outlined in here, a few like energy executives, so obviously working with the company because they want me to be helping them out with the educational components, but that I have access to the people that they have connections with. I do know that, although I don't know the name of the person at the wind farm, or even at this time, it's up there somewhere, but the name of the wind farm that is in Virginia.
I think for the sake of the board, from the sense I'm getting from the board is that it would be helpful to have a written or some sort of communication with Karen about, the write-up for the fellowship maybe that Jerry referred to, like what was the criteria for the fellowship that they've created, and specifically their plan for this year of the connections that you're going to make with, and give us a sense,
So like the
more
contract
detailed,
essentially.
yeah.
Like, so what the contract that, they haven't sent to me yet because I haven't had my approval, obviously. So, but that might be helpful, like the contract and what that looks like for.
And any information they can give us about
Who you will have contact
who
with.
you specifically you will be contacting with and in what capacity. Are you going to be going to, the office of the EPA, and connecting with Joe Schmo there? Or are you going to be taking field trips out to these wind farms and connecting with this other person? What is their plan for you? And because I think all of us can support this in theory, but I think we need to feel that when you get there, there's going to be something that you're actually working on, and there are connections that you're actually going to make. Not that we don't think you're going to make those, but that you're going to have the opportunity to make those. So,
I guess the description of the job, if there's a job description, what their expectations are of you. When you leave, what product do they want?
Right, that's a good idea. Good question.
What is it, what are their expectations of you? And I'd like to know who you report to.
Sure.
How is the progress going to be evaluated? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't know how this works because it is the private sector. Again, it's not that you're going for more education, and that's obviously easy to understand. But are they willing to pay for some of the costs? I don't even know if we do that. But you know what I mean? Because it seems like we're putting out everything. I don't see really what they've committed. They told you they had contacts, but I don't really see what they're contributing and putting out, where we're putting out everything. You know what I mean?
They're contributing an opportunity for a teacher to grow and develop and get involved in that process. And to me, that's really valuable. To them, it's not, but they know that I want that. And so they can get something if they know that they can hook me and us to get something for ourselves that committing that time to do the things that they need.
It's like an internship.
Yeah.
When you're in college, you have an internship, you go, you learn.
You learn and they get things from you. And
Yeah, they do it all the time in college.
Yeah, and I do know that I have spoken with them about having those online resources and contributing to newsletters. So these customers getting a newsletter that talks about, okay, well, what is CFLs compared to LED light bulbs? Like, what's the deal with them? How do they work? And what is the impact on the environment on how you dispose of them versus how they're made versus the cost benefit of buying a $12 light bulb versus a $2 light bulb? So I do know that they're looking for me to produce resources like that for them as well, which can certainly filter into things that we develop and talk to our kids about. So I do know that although that newsletter, it's not like I'm going to hand out that newsletter to my kids, but that information and that process and the questions that come about are part of what I'll be making.
He does want that, because that part of his speech that he made, he wants to get into the schools to tell the kids tell the parents. He was very, I mean, nothing bad, but he was very explicit. I mean, I listened to his whole spiel. So that's what he does want.
Yep.
He does want that conversation, and we've had that conversation for a lot of years. And I'm an old man that's been going on since I was a kid about those type of things. So I think they're important. I'm not sure of the net value at this point, to me.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah. Okay, so in the interest of time, and I really appreciate you, I hope you understand we are not supportive of you, that we just need more information. So I'm going to make a motion to table this sabbatical leave request and bring it back once we've got that some of that feedback in regards to the company and just understanding a little more about those details.
Sure. Yep.
So that we can move forward. Okay, so do we have to vote on that?
Yes, because it's on the
Okay.
agenda.
So, somebody needs to second my motion.
Second.
Okay, any comment from the board? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. And thank you
Excellent,
again,
thanks.
Lindsay, for all your time. And
Sure.
We'll revisit this. You know, Sandy, maybe you guys can connect just so that
Yeah.
we're sure that we have all the information that we
Okay.
need next time around.
All right.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Lindsay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love your passion and enthusiasm. All right. Moving along. The
Are you supposed to be using these microphones, by the way?
He said it was fine, we don't
Oh,
want to.
good.
Yeah. We've gotten a couple of different iterations of the school calendar proposed for 2014-2015.
Draft 4, I should say.
Draft 4?
Draft 4. Can you tell me, because I did look at this, what the, oh, I have, okay, yeah. Can somebody make a motion?
Okay, I move to approve the proposed 2014-2015 school calendar.
Second.
I'm going to be the first board comment. What's the difference between a purple teacher day and a green teacher in service day?
Okay, the green in service day is a workshop day where staff are having training. The purple days are the teacher comp days that they are given for working conferences at night. So there was some confusion in years past when they were all the same color, that people didn't know which ones they were working and which ones were the comp days.
So the purple is not a working day.
Correct,
It's the time made up for.
correct.
So there should be as many purples as greens? They're being comped for the green days, the working
No.
service days, or
No.
not necessarily?
They
No.
work those.
They
They're-
No, I know they work colored. She's saying that the purple is a comp day.
For conferences.
No,
For
for
conferences.
conferences. No, teacher comp.
Teacher
like
comp.
parent teacher.
Parent
Oh,
teachers.
okay.
They stay at night, it's in their contract, they stay at night.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Sandy, do you know what the last change was that happened today? Because I can't tell.
Yesterday, it was the purple box.
It was the purple box. And the other square, if you look at October 24th, the change that was made on there is that is a teacher in-service day and it's an ed tech in-service day. So we wanted to make sure the language was clear that the ed techs knew that they would be coming on that day for
Got it.
training.
Other questions? Yes, you have a bunch.
Should I start with one?
Do you want me to go to
Start
the-
with one.
Okay. So, we're adding up almost to 175 days here.
You are 175.
Well, not quite, because you've got August, September listed as 24 days, but it's really 23 days for 10 to 12th graders and 22 days for kindergartners. But still, for 175, I thought it was 180 that we needed to be in school, but that might just be my Connecticut.
Students need to be
background.
in session 175 days. Kindergartners do not need to have the full 175 days per Maine state law. So that's why,
So it's a Maine law that's different. than-
Correct.
Okay, so I'm used to Connecticut. So the 10th to 12th graders, 10th to 12th graders only need 174 days?
because the rest of the high school is there, you can stagger your start in order for those students to have, because many schools stagger in order to get the new students in to have a full day. So, Kate, I'm sorry.
No, I just raised my hand. Just being so shy down here.
Yeah, if you could just call me, because I can't see them.
Oh.
Go ahead, Kate.
In November 4th, what is this black box?
We are, oh, fine.
Is it on the 4th, Kate?
Yeah.
Yeah, November
Okay.
4th.
November 4th is Election Day, and because of the new security system,
Yeah.
we cannot possibly secure our students with the public coming in and out voting. If you teach in the 300
Right.
wing, it's an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
And with Bill Hansen's recommendation, there's just no way to secure and know our students are safe. Scarborough High School's in the same boat, so we adopted their model of what they do as well. They've had it for years, so.
So what
Wyndham High
about,
School is closed.
Wyndham High School will not be in session that day.
It says it below, Kate? Yep.
what I'm curious about is whether or not it's considered a student day or they're minus the 175 for high school?
If you look at the end of the calendar, we have the high school students reporting on their last day is June 11th, not June 10th.
Okay, so they make it up
Yep.
down there.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
Lucky kids. And okay, Jen.
I've got a few more, but just to tag onto that comment, why don't you make that a, like a teacher in service day? So we don't have to secure the school then.
We can't, because with the new law that passed last year through legislation, we need to align our school calendar with all the other schools in the Sebago Alliance District. So we, as a group, Scarborough, Bonnie Eagle, Gorham, ourselves, Westbrook, our calendars cannot have more than 5 dissimilar days in the calendar.
Why is that?
We can't, because of the vocational students. All the students that go to Westbrook Voc, we have to align our calendars. There was a law that was passed, and it was in effect last year. So that is the reason that we get together and make a calendar, and we have 175 student days and 180 staff days. Other districts have different numbers. They have the minimum, some have more. So when we're trying to align, it's a huge grid that goes up, and we try to stick to where we all start at the same time, our Christmas breaks are aligned. You know, last year was the first year that we had students come during Thanksgiving break. That was a change for us because all the other districts came to school those 2 days. So when you start adding up days, there's only 5 we cannot, you know, if we're off one day and the rest of them are going to school, that's one day that goes on the count of 5. So that's why there isn't a lot of wiggle room. We really try to work together to do the pieces, so.
And you understand the purpose behind that, so that kids who are going to attending
Yep.
vocational schools, you know, where our calendars are as common as they can be, so that it's not like when Wyndham High School is closed, you know, then, and the vocational student might miss or have to find their own way or whatever. So that's
Do you share buses? Is that?
I
No,
don't know
what
the
happens is-
logistics of it.
Yeah,
but-
if you're an instructor at Westbrook Voc, you could have a Tuesday where Gorham has an in-service day, and so none of the students from Gorham are there, and now you have to make up their instruction, but all the other kids are there. And before the law was in place, they were never having full kids consistently.
So the kids who come from Wyndham and Raymond who go to the vocational school follow our calendar and not the vocational school
No,
calendar?
they follow our calendar, but all our calendars are aligned together.
Because they go to school in Wyndham as well as the Voc.
Right.
They don't go just to Voc.
It's
Right.
half day.
Yep.
It's
They
half
either go
day.
morning or they go afternoon.
So they do
section.
academic things in Wyndham, and then they go
Right.
to
Okay.
Voc. So as a result, you have to align the calendars.
Okay.
And
Make
one of the
sense?
other
Yes.
results that was helpful, which we didn't have to align, were our early release days. The vocational center was very helpful in saying, as long as you put your late arrivals, which some districts have, and your early releases on a Wednesday, they'll make it work. So that was one place. If we had to try to align early release days, I don't know what we would have done. It would have been amazing. I mean, it's hard enough to do this part, you know, but.
Jen, did you have another question?
I do.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay.
No, we like yours. We're just listening away.
I just have one, because it's on the mind of people that Eric have talked to and myself. I understand that the Sebago Alliance has to be kind of all on the same page, but, so has there been ever any discussion since you've been involved about starting school after Labor Day? And if there has been that discussion, has there been opposition within the Alliance?
There is not. The only district that ever started before Labor Day was Scarborough, and they moved to before Labor Day to align with us, and no one wants to go before Labor Day.
You mean after Labor Day?
I'm sorry, excuse me, yes, after Labor Day, thank you, because of the potential number of snow days and getting people and staying so late. That is one table that I had heard from teachers, geez, we really like to start after Labor Day. And at this point, there is no discussion whatsoever of anybody wanting to start after Labor Day.
Jen?
How is graduation day before the last day of school?
Graduation day is always set a year ahead of time. Seniors also have their requirements that they finish. Sandy, maybe you can speak to that a little bit more, but all dates for graduation are set a year in advance.
Yeah, we have to book the Civic Center where graduation is, so you never know about the snow days. so it is what it is.
We're sure
Do
they're going to
kids still go to
graduate.
school on the 8th, 9th, and 10th?
Do seniors need to go for as many days for some reason? I'm thinking they don't, they get out a little earlier. Well, they've got privileges and.
I do know the seniors are very excited when it's a snow day because they don't make them up. You
I would.
hear that.
As far as I can
Seems to
remember,
me-
seniors have
Oh.
always graduated before the end of
Yeah,
school.
we have.
In
You
every
know, when
high
I was a
school,
kid,
yeah.
and that was a long time.
Yeah. Those dates are set well a year in advance.
I'm saying,
I'm not so sure they're not in school though. I mean, I think they might be in school. Rich, do you know by chance with the seniors?
Well, they do marching
Well,
and
they
do all sorts of
practice.
stuff.
Practice.
Yeah.
Ceremonies.
There's a lot of after end of the year activities and things that they're involved in. Things there's annually done and all.
So are we giving like fake diplomas, or do they get their real diploma on the stage and, They don't-
I think it's empty. Isn't it empty?
well,
It's always been empty.
is it just a ceremony, or are they really graduating? and-
They're graduating.
Okay.
No, we've given them, like, signed every one of those things. Real diplomas.
I just didn't know, is there like exams during those days that they could fail? I mean, is it,
No.
No.
or
Oh,
are they,
no,
they
it's done
sure
on
they're
before.
done? And
That's
The
before.
exams are before,
Yeah.
yeah. They're all,
Okay.
that's all.
And every high school in the state of Maine does the same.
Okay.
So there must be, I don't know what the rule is, but there has to be some.
So the exams are done by the time the kids graduate?
Yeah.
Grades and everything are done by the time they graduate. Everything's all.
Their AP exams are in May, and then they roll right into final exams, and the high school is a whirlwind, making sure everybody has their community service hours, all of their credits, everything, all their library books are back. I mean, Mr. Drummond with his uniforms, the whole 9 yards. It's kind of a frenzy to get everything done before the seniors graduate.
I haven't seen her yet, so I haven't been through it. It seemed odd to me.
Jen, do you have another question?
One more.
Go ahead.
10 a.m. releases, those count as full days for the students?
Yes.
It's like
The
just
early
waking up
releases.
and,
Yep.
okay. How is that a full day of school? Is that part of
Must
the
be a
law?
certain number of
that-
hours.
Right, it's a certain number of hours that you have to add up. I know for the vocational, it's 350. I know the early releases on Wednesdays for elementary, we actually have extended time, school days. If you look at other districts, their times are a lot shorter, so.
I have a question about those. It seems like we actually only have 1, 2, 4 of those now. And is that strategic, or, because it used to be like once a month, I think, at one point, that we were having those early releases.
I know we didn't put one in October because we already have a holiday in October, and we already have an in-service day where students are not attending. So we tried to strategically put them in there where we could do some professional development for staff and not disrupt as much instruction.
And the same thing with November, since there's a holiday.
Correct.
And December. No,
There's one in
there isn't.
There's one in December. And with the early releases, when I started this 2 years ago, I took what had been traditionally done in the district for the early release days.
But now they're all back on Wednesdays, which they
Correct. Yep.
hadn't been. And that's a voc thing, so.
Yeah.
That's actually better for families, I think.
Right, they let the older kid hear it so they can watch the little kid.
Yeah. I mean, it's
And for
practical.
staff, it's an opportunity for the high school to meet with the middle school teachers, and the staffs can kind of do some things. Before it was very random. It was elementary all Wednesdays, and then there were random Fridays and other days for the upper elementary, the middle schools and the high schools.
Great. Any other questions? We've fully dissected the calendar.
Okay, I thought of one more.
Oh, sorry. Great. Jennifer, ask one more.
She's usually quiet, let her go.
Yeah, she is usually quiet.
Is there a maximum number of snow days, or can we just keep going until September?
Every snow, and this is
Do
what's
you know
confusing
something about
for
next
people.
winter that we don't know?
I know. I just know my old school district, it was 5, and if you went
Right,
over
but
5,
for
then you start
every-
taking away vacations.
In Maine, it's for every day you're out is a day you're making up.
Okay.
There are years that I taught that we actually got out on
That's
June
180.
28th.
It's 5 days.
I think maybe if you get to July 1st, state may do something, but.
Was it last year? Was it last year or the year before?
Students may do something with
We
this.
went really late and there was talk about
Right.
Saturday.
Saturday session.
Yeah.
Because they almost moved summer camp because kids
Right.
weren't out of school yet.
Right.
That's right, don't miss something.
I know.
All right, are we all ready? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Happy calendar. All right, could we have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
All those in favor of adjourning the special meeting?
Who was the second?
Who was the second?
Second.
Eric.
Sorry.
Thank you.
We were just so excited about adjournment. And that was unanimous. And we are now going to, are we in time? We're late. We're going to move into our workshop session in which we will be hearing cost center presentations for the FY15 budget. And we're going to begin this evening with Tom Nash with adult education.
I'm Tom Nash, the Adult Education Director. I have Lisa Robertson, who is our ABE Coordinator and lead teacher, and Tina Christopherson, who is our Career Pathways Coordinator. We do have another gentleman, Steve McFarland, who's not able to make it tonight. But I'd like to be able to bring us all here so you can see us, and then there's some questions that might be, you might have specific questions that they can answer as well. Jennifer is on our advisory board. We have a member of the audience, Tom Bartel, is also on the advisory board. And we also are looking for more people on the advisory board. But for those out there that are watching, just to give you a little plug there. We have, in our program, just recently gone through a revision of our mission, vision, and values. The advisory board was a part of that discussion. So we looked at our mission, where we are, vision, where we want to be, and also what we value. And our values really didn't change at all. It's just some of the language around our mission and vision had changed. We do commission with the school district and the strategic plan of the school district. I know that you asked us tonight to kind of talk about that a little bit. In our budget presentation, you have that information there. You have our mission, you have our major program goals, and our student outcomes. Some highlights, and what's that? You have that, I think, in your.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep, I have it.
Thank you. The current year highlights, and I'm going to have Tina and Lisa speak a little bit about that. But those are there. We kind of highlighted our work with the strategic planning goal number 1, actively engaging all students in high quality, authentic, and personally relevant learning. And we really feel that in adult education we do a wonderful job in that area. With our personal learning plans, working with the mass customized learning, aligning curriculum with local community colleges, articulation agreements, and so forth. And Tina Lisa wanted to talk a little bit about just the English ESOL class we have.
We were able to double our hours of intensity this year by adding a conversational English class. Before, we had students coming on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 11, and that was only 4 hours a week for service, and that was speaking, listening, and writing. So we broke it into 3 separate classes. So from 8:30 to 10:30, everyone's together. We have 18 learners this year working on conversation, so speaking and listening. And I was just in there doing some observations this week, and every 10 minutes it's a new activity and everybody gets to speak. They're speaking in pairs. The teacher is going around writing down what they say, making sure they're putting in their articles or the right verb tense. It was just very exciting, and I would love to have anybody come and observe and be part of the class. Then from 10:30 to 12:30, they split into level reading and writing groups.
So now we're able to offer 8 hours of service to learners, and at their level, we have students from Russia, Vietnam, Germany, Somalia, Iran, and that's just the major groups. So it's very exciting to see them learning, getting confidence for jobs, going on to college. We had 2 pass the AccuPlacer. These are not native English speakers, be able to pass the AccuPlacer and go into college, and they're doing great. And it's just exciting to be able to, when they come back and tell us how thankful they are for the learning that they've gotten here in our class.
Tina, just want to talk just briefly again just about the precision machining program. Just
Precisely.
Precisely.
Yes. Okay, first I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here tonight and tell you about our wonderful programs. And I do have 2 programs I'd like to update you on. The first one is our Introduction to Precision Machining Technology program. And this is a partnership program that was developed a couple years ago with Portland Arts and Technology High School and Portland Adult Ed. And this program is currently 9 months long. It started in September, or in October, and it'll end in June. And it's 2 nights a week down at PATHS. And this program provides training in the areas that were requested by local machine shops. And when I was developing the program, I called machine shops, anybody who would answer the phone, and I asked them what attributes they wanted to see from incoming new machinists. And they told me they wanted math. So they have shop math. They wanted blueprint reading, manual machining, and job-ready skills like the work-ready credential. So all of that has been incorporated into this program. Students are in class 2 nights a week. And what's really been exciting recently is we've been touring some local machine facilities. We recently toured Saco Defense. We visited Maine Machine Products up in South Paris. And we're also trying to coordinate a tour at Pratt & Whitney. And we've also invited local machine shops, smaller ones, to come in and be guest speakers within the program. Very exciting. We have 6 students in the class right now. Capacity is 8. And we are scheduling the start date for the next class to be right around the first part of October. We already have 5 students interested. And I haven't even announced tuition yet, so that's really exciting. It could be scary. So that's our machining program. And the second program is still in the works, but this is a partnership program with the Transportation Department. We are working on a CDL Class B school bus driver training program, which is what I'm going to call it an enhanced CDL Class B bus driver training program, which will incorporate the requirements, the training requirements for district bus drivers. So we're going to have the CDL bus training component, the student component, as well as the first aid and CPR components. And that's still under development, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to roll it out end of the summer, first part of the fall. Any questions?
So, thank you. So that's an emerging program for next year. So we have the 2 things you just mentioned there. And we also just, a quick highlight is working with the food pantry and the Cooking Matters class has been really exciting for us. Just getting ourselves down there and visible, and having them also up in our program. They're going to be working with one of our high school completion classes to help teach them how to what to do after high school, right? How to take care of themselves better after high school. So I think it's just nice having the partnerships that we've been developing throughout the community. Again, emerging for next year as we move forward, we'll be working on expanding the high set program, which is the new, it's the new GED, I guess, is the best way to best. It's the high school completion program now that we have instead of the GED. So making sure that we're all set with that, rolling out with the computerized version next year. Again, the truck driver training that Tina mentioned. We're also going to be looking at, in goal number 2, a strategic plan, how we attract, hire, and retain the very highest quality staff. So we're going to be doing a survey of other local adult ed programs in the catchment area to make sure we're paying similar salaries so we can retain those really good teachers that we have, and also look at the course costs that we charge for our programs. We do keep our course costs low and accessible, but we've been told sometimes that, that they're too low, and maybe we should raise the price a little bit. People see a low class, low course fee and think it's not going to be a good value. So we need to kind of walk a fine line with that. Another thing we'll be working on next year, emerging in FY15, is just expanding our technology. We're one of the most technology-rich adult ed programs in the state. We're very proud of that. We have some very highly qualified people that instruct our teachers and using those tools. We have the tampering system and using iPads in the classroom. Some other things, you want just a minute just to say something about technology, Lisa?
Sure. We are hoping to expand the video conferencing. Statewide, adult ed uses video conferencing to share classes, and we're hoping to be able to tap into that more. Having it in one classroom right now is limited because we use that class for other things, so we're hoping to be able to have the video conferencing be able to move a little bit better, so we can have more high school diploma offerings, more certification kind of offerings from around the state. And you've probably seen in our brochure the other computer classes that we have, ranging 17 to 70 computers for seniors. The Google Docs, LinkedIn has been helping many people be able to find jobs. Those Microsoft certifications, designing websites, and like Tom had mentioned, getting those from your iPad. So we are community based for the technology. Really want to be able to get it in the hands of people.
So those are the areas that we're expanding into in FY15 with that commissions with the district strategic plan. I was also asked again to briefly just mention that we have some minor increases and decreases. In our salary and benefits lines, we have $4,000 additional cost associated with a course reimbursement. We have a couple of our staff members who are taking graduate level courses at USM, so we want to make sure that they can do that. Our printing has gone up a little bit, $1,300. So when we talk about major increases, that's what we're talking about in my program, is a few $1,000s. We also are looking at expanding our hours in Raymond again, and also in South Wyndham. We'd like to bring an academic program up to Raymond. We tried it here a few years ago in this very room. We did find that most of the students coming to this class were not from Raymond. So we ended up pulling it back to our location. We've checked around to see where Raymond students are going. We checked Crooked River Adult Ed, which is not too far up the street. And last we heard, they didn't have anybody that was taking classes up there. We have very few in our program, although we did a query with our database management system, and it showed up that we had 600 enrollments from Raymond. We know that's not right. That could have been 600 enrollments from the last 10 years. So, but it is nice to know that we've had 600 enrollments from Raymond. So people are taking classes from this community, and again, most of those are being accessed in locations other than Raymond. So we'd like to bring some classes up here. We do have some classes here in the school, exercise, enrichment, and so forth, but expanding our program. Some minor decreases in the 6300 account, which is our vocational training. We just try to do the best we can in anticipating trends, offering courses that people in the community would like. So we put a dollar figure out there that we'd like to offer so many classes, and hopefully those classes run, but it's not an exact science. You build it and they don't always come. So we really have minor increases, minor decreases in our budget. And I'm supposed to now leave it up for you to ask us some questions.
Yeah. I'm just curious how I'm sorry, can't get away from your terminology, but how your new GED, which is now high set, is going with, because I know there were different requirements and everything. I don't know if it scared people away or if they won't people come.
We had a great influx in the fall of people finishing up their GED. So that was exciting to see. And then the people, it just rolled right over. The people that hadn't finished will be able to with the high set, and people that hadn't started, we have plenty of new enrollments with the high set. So I think when they're ready, it doesn't matter what the test is.
Wasn't there a concern about the cost of this test?
Yeah, when the first RFP went out, actually it wasn't an RFP, it just was, we were going to go with a GED testing service, and that was the only game in town. And it was going to be computerized only. A lot of adult ed directors in Maine and across the country didn't like that limitation. So we, so other entities decided to put out an exam, an equivalent exam to the GED. So ours comes from the Educational Testing Service. It's a very, they do the
SAT.
the SAT and the praxis, so they have the experience in doing high stakes testing. So the nice thing about the HiSET is that, unlike the GED testing service, we actually were able to carry forward any GED scores for the first year. And also we're offering a paper version versus a computerized version. So I think people have appreciated that. There is some computerized aspects of it that they have to register online, and there's some nuances that are a little bit different with it now. But I think so far it hasn't put up any barriers to people to test. The new test, it's a little bit more content driven, I would think. And it's also aligned with the career and college readiness standards.
Which is the adult ed Common Core.
Yeah, the adult ed Common. So I think they've done a lot. They've done their homework in making sure that the test could be a reliable tool determining readiness for post-secondary.
And we were already working on towards those standards, the adult ed Common Core. So it wasn't a big shift for you guys.
Yeah. And the cost that was involved before is that when we were going to be required to go computerized only, there was very specific requirements in the hardware side of things, and it required us to then purchase several $1,000s worth of new equipment.
So that's how we got around the cost issue.
Yes, yeah.
And it's still free for students.
Still free. State mandate, yeah.
On the vocational, because you have quite a bit of work going on with vocational school now, who bears the burden of that cost? Because you're doing it at paths. You're doing it at paths, the welding or machining.
The cost of the program is paid for by the tuition, books, and fees.
Okay. I didn't know if there were grants or if there were any, the workforce type.
Well, we have, out of the 6 students, 4 have some type of funding source, and we have 2 students paying for it on their own.
We have some limited funds, limited scholarship funds through adult ed program that we also can use for that. And the nice thing about the PATHS program is that for them it's utilizing an underutilized facility. And I think that's a positive, it's a positive for them. And what we're hearing also from the businesses we're visiting is that the students that are being trained on the machine, on the manual machine pieces, they have an advantage over others. If you can learn machining on those items, those tools, those pieces of equipment, then it puts you at a different level. So.
Great. Jerry.
You guys do a great job. I'm a big supporter. You're saying that your student enrollment is going to drop 600 from 28 to 2,200. Is that accurate? That's what our sheet says? Student academic 450, all others from 2,800 to 2,200. I just want to be sure that we've got that correct.
Yeah, I will say that the trend that we've been seeing, not just in our program but statewide, is that enrollments have been dropping.
Okay.
I would note that currently our enrollments are about 2,500, and we're not done with our school year yet. But I don't anticipate us being over 3,000 with our enrollments. We've been getting 3,400 enrollments. So we just trying to be realistic unless something changes. I mean, it's been, it's a tough winter. People are spending their discretionary funds on oil and other heat sources. It's been too cold to go out, but it's definitely been a trend statewide that enrollments are dropping.
And you've increased a position from 0.8 to 1. Which position is that? And you haven't decreased any positions, even though you have a big decrease in number of people.
Last year at this time, what was in the budget was to decrease the position for the Career Pathways Coordinator, which was then put back in at the special meeting in June. So it has to reflect what was.
Okay, so that's what that's
Yeah,
like, okay.
so-
All right, so it's not. And you haven't decreased any based on the drop in enrollment?
No, the only thing we're decreasing a little bit is just some of our clerical hours. There's an overlap in the afternoon between the afternoon secretary and the evening receptionist. So we felt now that where we've got the person that's been there has more experience, we don't need as much overlap. So it's about, I think it was $1,700 difference. But no, we've not decreased anything else, staffing-wise.
Those numbers that are decreasing, those are enrichment courses.
Primarily, yes.
Which are mostly self-funding, right?
Yeah.
Rather than the academic ones that you're hiring staff for example.
So let me clarify, of the AE teachers, are the people who teach those enrichments reflected here in these numbers? Maybe I just need to understand what these numbers are, Tom. Not challenge, I just want to be clear.
Yeah,
because you're saying they're self-funded, so that makes a
the
difference.
AE teachers, 85 part-time, so that it's equivalent to 8.5 FTEs.
And those are the enrichment classes?
Those are enrichment classes,
Okay,
correct.
okay. So they are in here.
And there's also, and there's some also part-time, I mean, Lisa is AB coordinator, lead
Right.
teacher, everyone else is a part-time teacher that does any class for us.
Okay, just want to be sure that, but you essentially get that money back through the tuition sorts of
Yes.
things, but they are part of the budget. Okay.
And hope to, those classes also need to generate some profit for us.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Don?
I just wanted the new board members to know that this particular budget's not in your regular operating budget, so it's not part of the $41 million budget that you'll generally be working on through these next few days. So this particular budget has a separate warrant article at the time of budget vote, and I think Tom and the staff would be proud to say that they're not increasing taxation in the community based on this particular budget this year. In over years past, I think there's only been one in the past 5, 6, 7, Tom, if maybe more than that. So they're very careful with their money. But I just wanted you to know it's not part of the operating budget.
We do tend to look for other sources of revenue for program expansion. So a lot of the entrepreneur stuff, things that Tina's working on, can help generate some extra revenue to help run those additional courses in Raymond or South Wyndham or wherever they want to go.
I'm curious though, because you're saying there's no change, but this reflects a 5% increase.
In the budget, but not in taxation. So now we're talking, what are we going to ask the community for versus what the budget is? The budget is up, but we're not asking for more money from the local communities.
So how are we funding the additional 5%?
Revenues, additional revenues.
Additional revenues, additional state.
Within your budget?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
The anticipated additional state revenue, again, is because it's 2-year-old costs, it's because we've been doing such a nice job expanding our program. We're getting, $24,000 more than we expected, at least not